Let's get started. We're going to talk just for a few minutes about what's going on in the Medicare space right now, and then we'll take your questions. But you probably know that because of the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as just all the inflation that's occurred in our country, that we are definitely seeing increasing Medicare rates. Specifically right now, of course, we're talking about Medicare supplemental plans. Some of the increases that are coming to Medicare Advantage is going to happen. We'll see that in the fall. But right now, you're seeing increases with MedSup premiums. And what can you do about it? Well, first off, let me tell you why. Because during the most of the part of COVID from about 2020 to about 2022, many people were postponing health issues, knee replacements, hip replacements, other things were just postponing because of the risk involved in being in healthcare settings. And so that happened for about 3 years, actually. But all that changed last year in 2023. We saw on quarterly about an 8% increase in medical services, doctor visits, specialist visits, outpatient surgeries, hospitalizations. All of them were up about 8% over the whole year. So people are back to getting those elective surgeries and essential services, and so that caused a tremendous amount of use and really has driven up the morbidity rates that insurance companies are dealing with now. And so I want to make sure there is a reason behind it. Plus, all the inflation that has occurred in our country here in the last few years had a bearing on medical expenses as well. So those two things, increased use as well as inflation. Now, what's happening this year is we're seeing companies make that adjustment because rates, frankly, were really very stable for the last several years, but now we're seeing increases. And again, we're brokers, so I'm just kind of giving you a broad statement. We're seeing anywhere from 10 to 15% increases. I had a husband and wife that I talked to just before I got on this event tonight, and their rates went up 15% each. And so that's hefty, it just is. And so it's unfortunate that it's happening, but it really is across the board with the carriers, and there's a reason behind it. We're disappointed in it, but it is happening. But there could be some things that you can do. And so that's what I want to talk about briefly. So first off, again, we're addressing Medicare supplemental plans. So you may be someone that started Medicare prior to January 1, 2020, which meant you fell under the old guidelines where you may have supplemental plan F. There's still millions of people on supplemental plan Fs. And so what you have the option to do at any time during the year, you can actually move to a G plan or to an N plan. And we're seeing people right now making that supplemental plan F to G or F to N, saving anywhere from about $50 to $100 on a monthly basis. Now, remember, when you think about these supplemental plans, your F plan has been full coverage, which is awesome. But the problem is you're paying too much now for that full coverage F plan. And so if you go down one step, you'll go down to a G plan, which is an excellent plan, almost full coverage, except one item you'd be responsible for. So this is the difference. You would have to pay your Medicare Part B deductible. That's an annual amount. This year, it's $240. Now, if you're on your F plan now and that deductible's already been met by your supplemental plan, you're not going to have to pay another deductible. It's going to be covered for 2024 if it's already been satisfied. But as you roll to 2025, you'd be responsible for that Medicare Part B deductible, whatever it is. And again, we don't know what it's going to be yet next year. But that's the only difference between F and G. Everything else is covered by the G plan that the F covered, except the Medicare B deductible. But if we can save $50, $100 a month, we've got more than enough savings to be able to compensate for that increased liability, which is the Medicare B deductible. So again, if you can save $600 to $200 a year and you're out of pocket $240, that's a wonderful value. So I'd encourage you to consider that. If you're on that plan, you can also go to an N plan. The N plan is close, not quite as comprehensive, but still a wonderful, wonderful option. Many people are going with the N plans today. So with the N plan, the way it works is it, like the G, will not cover your Medicare B deductible. You're responsible for that once a year. Okay. And then in addition to that, the N plan, you would be responsible for any excess charges that would occur. Now, excess charges are rare. Less than 5% of doctors actually charge excess. We do see it for sure, but again, it's not very common. So if you have an N plan and you happen to have an excess charge, it's not going to cover it for you. But again, the probability of that is really low. In addition, if you have an in plan, every time you see a doctor or a specialist, you are subject to a copay of up to $20. That copay could be $16, could be $18, but never more than $20. And so the difference in premium on the in plan in most states, there's an exception for some states, but most states we're going to say anywhere between about $35, maybe $40 between the G and the N. So again, that $360 to $480 difference may be the best thing for your budget. So again, I would never discourage someone to go to an in plan. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to. I'm 63. I'll be 65 here in a year and a couple months. I would still select the G plan only because I know there is a slight risk of excess, and I don't want any hassles. I don't want to worry about any kind of copay. So that's me. That extra $30 to $40 in my budget is not a huge deal, but I mean, I'm all for saving money, but I'm just saying we're all wired differently. So again, if you do G, it's wise. If you do N, it's wise. They're really are wonderful plans. So I would recommend you do that. Now, those of you that are on a G plan, you actually have a couple options. You may be able to move to a different carrier on a G plan. In fact, one I quoted today, we were going to save the lady, and we're going G to G. They didn't want to change letters. The man, we were going to save $40 a month, and the lady was going to save $55 a month. Okay, so again, G to G. Now, if they would have taken all the way down to the end, they'd have saved another, $30 or $35 a month. So my point is, that's one way you can save money right now, because the Medicare supplemental plans are not subject to the open enrollment period. We call that the annual election period that's going to be later this year. You're not subject to that. You can move those plans anytime that you want to. Now, you got to keep this in mind. If I move from an F to a G, or a G to a G, or a G to an N, or an F to an N, we make that letter move. In the majority of states, you're going to actually have to medically qualify to do that. Okay, and so that's just kind of part of the rules. Now, when I talk about medical qualifications, what I mean is that you're over that period of time where the insurance company does not have to approve you. Remember, when you first go on Medicare, they had to approve you. They couldn't ask you any health questions, because 6 months prior to our Medicare B date and 6 months after our B date of Medicare, we're in what's called a guaranteed issue Medigap open enrollment period. So there's no underwriting allowed at all. It's not, they can't ask you any health questions, because it's against the rules. And every single state in the country, when someone's first on Medicare, they can apply 3 to 6 months in advance, and then they can apply 6 months after their B date. All right. So the point is, after that, in most states, to make those switches, we're going to have to go through underwriting. So that process is this. Number one, we're going to have to ask you about 35 to 40 health questions. The majority of those health questions you're going to have to answer no to. They're going to look at all the large organs, the heart, the lung, the liver, the kidney. Going to ask you about cancer in the last 36 months. If you're diabetic, we're going to have to ask you a few questions about the seriousness of your diabetes. Type 2 is no issue. Usually type 1, as long as you take less than 50 units of insulin a day, is usually not a problem either. If you have retinopathy or neuropathy, probably not going to get approved. Rheumatoid arthritis, I can't get that approved today. Atrial fibrillation, if that's in your medical records, or you're taking Xarelto or Eliquis, not going to get that approved. So the point is, there are some health questions that we're going to have to ask you. And beyond that, we'll ask you all your medications. A guy that I helped today was taking 6 medications: 2 blood pressure, cholesterol, medication for depression, a couple of things. But the point is, I still think he's going to get through underwriting. So don't be afraid of doing that. Now, if you just got diagnosed with cancer in the last year or 2 years, you're not going to get approved. But as long as you're generally healthy, even if you're taking a few meds, we can usually get a good feel. Now, I will tell you, I had a guy I helped recently that was taking a depression medication, has for about 10 years. One carrier would not take him, had another carrier that will take him. They're not concerned about the length of time on depression medication. So again, a good broker is going to be able to analyze your health situation and make a recommendation as to what carrier may be the best situation for you. So keep that in mind. There is a process called underwriting. Sometimes we actually have to have a statement from your doctor to clarify something. Just had this happen last week. Had a lady that wanted to go through underwriting. We got declined, and I thought it would have been a case that should have been approved. And so the insurance company wouldn't tell us as an agency why she got declined, but they communicated with her. And so the reason they declined her was because the medication that she took had dual purpose. It could be taken for as hormone replacement, but also it's also prescribed in some forms of cancer treatment, oddly enough. And so they thought she had cancer, so they declined the case. Well, she didn't have cancer, called the underwriters back and explained why she was taking this, and they approved the case. And so any agent that's worth their salt is going to take the time to make sure they're trying to place the business somewhere where we can get that case approved. But here's the deal. It doesn't cost you anything to try this, nor are we going to cancel your existing policy. We're not going to do that until we got approval. And so if you apply and you get denied, there's really no harm done. You're not going on some blacklist where you can't attempt this again. And so again, if you're generally healthy and we can save some decent money, for me, $30, $40, $50 a month or more, I think it's well worth your time to move those plans. So again, F to a G or an N, a G to a G, or G to an N if you want. And if you're on an N plan, you may be able to find another carrier now that's offering a better rate even on your N plan. And if that's something you would like help with, we're delighted to do that. We write in all 50 states. We're familiar with all the carriers, their underwriting guidelines, and we also write in DC as well. So keep that in mind. That's a way that you can save money. Now, another thing that you can do, we cannot do this at this time, but let's say something has happened in your budget that is extremely tight and you're going to have to get off that supplemental plan. You cannot, can no longer afford that. So you want to keep the supplemental plan through the end of the year for sure. But what you can do is you can call our office anytime you'd like, and we can start talking and preparing for you to switch to an Advantage plan. Again, so there's some times where people have to do that. Now, listen, the Advantage plans still have their issues. We're still dealing with networks, HMOs, and PPOs. We're still dealing with pre-authorizations. Those kind of things are going to happen. But if you cannot afford your supplemental plan, it just no longer fits in the budget, then what I would do is then I'd cancel that supplemental plan towards the end of the year, and you can switch to an Advantage plan. And again, we'll try to find the very best one that we can. And so what that would look like would, you would make that switch to an Advantage plan. We can start doing those switches October 15th through December 7th. There's no underwriting to switch to an Advantage plan. You would stay on your supplemental plan through 12/31, and then your Advantage plan would go effective January 1. Okay, so again, that would be probably my last option for saving money, but for some of you, you may need to do that. Now, I also want to let you know that at this time of the year, we cannot change any drug plans. Drug plans, we're in the blackout period now. So your drug plan you have, you're going to have to stay on that drug plan, but they are very attractive right now. So hopefully you do have a good drug plan. All right, so those are the ways we can save money. And again, most of you are going to have to make that decision to medically qualify and go through that process, but we'd be delighted to assist with that. Now, there are some states that we call those birthday rule states where underwriting is not necessary, but you'd have to make that switch a G to G or G to an N plan or even F to F around your birthday. Some states 30 days before birthday, 30 days after, some from your birthday for the next 60 days. There's a variety of rules in those birthday rule states. Okay, but again, our agents are well versed with all those, and we certainly would be delighted to help with any of those situations. All right. Okay, so enough of that. If you have any further questions about this topic that I did not address, please put that in the comment section, and I'll try to answer those as we go through our session tonight. Okay, so I have a gentleman within our company. His name is Daniel Brooks. Daniel's a dear friend, but also a great coworker. He's going to be screening the questions here, and he'll put those before me at this time, and then I'm going to read the question, give you the answer, and so hopefully we can provide some great assistance for you. Okay, Daniel, let's get started. All right, first off, George. He says he has A, meaning he has Medicare Part A, still working till October. Then B for me, and A and B for younger spouse advice. Okay, well, George, as long as your younger spouse is going to be turning 65 in the next few months, then if that person, your spouse, is on Social Security, they will be automatically enrolled into Medicare. The Medicare card, when you're on Social Security, automatically shows up in your mailbox about 3.5 months prior to the birth month, 3.5 months. If your younger spouse is not on Social Security, then you're going to have to initiate that enrollment. We have a 7-month window, and that window is called the initial enrollment period, acronym IEP, 3 months before we turn 65, The month we turn 65, 3 months after. Now, again, when someone's not going to have any insurance, then we want to do that 3 months in advance. Now, you already have a Medicare A only. Because you were working. So what's going to happen is this: you're going to come into Medicare using a different enrollment period, which is called the Special Election Period, acronym SEP. Now, that process for you, George, is this. Your employer is going to have to verify that you've had credible coverage back to 65. So if you're 67, we have to look back 2 years. If you're 66, we got to look back 1 year. But there's a form called an L564 that must be filled out. You need to initiate the form. Now, by the way, George, if you work with us, we'll do all this with you and for you. We do it every day, all day long. But the L564, part of it you complete, then you give it to your HR department. Then they're going to verify employment and insurance back to 65 or beyond. We care about going back to 65, that you've had credible coverage and we're still working. That L564 form, then we have another form that we add to that your employer does not fill out. You do, or we'll do it for you, called the CMS 40B. And this form will specify when you want to start your Medicare. So if your group plan is going to end in September, you're going to put on the form, please begin my Medicare October 1, 2024. Or if your employer is going to cover you through the end of October, then you'd put on there, please begin my Medicare Part B at November 1. So the 40B form is your Social Security number, your address, your name, of course, Medicare number, which you have on your A-only card, and then you specify the date that you want to begin. So the L564 will prove we're eligible to come into Medicare using the SEP period. No penalties, no problems. And the 40B tells them when we want to start. So those two forms can be faxed in, mailed into your local Social Security office. You can drop it off if you want. A word of caution, if it were me, if you fax it into your local office, I also would mail a hard copy with a little sticky note saying I faxed this in whatever date, just sending a hard copy to make sure that you got it. Because I have seen occasionally when they didn't process the faxed in application. The best is to drop it off if you can. Most Social Security offices are open 9 to 4, Monday to Friday. Okay, so enough of that. Hopefully that helps, Daniel. Let's go to the second question. All right. Mike P says, does Medicare check your income every year to see if you get an IRMA? Yes, they do. Mike, they're going to. Now, keep this in mind. Now, and for those of you that maybe don't you understand this question, it is our income that determines how much we pay for our Medicare Part B premiums, income. Now, the specific income they're looking for is called Modified Adjusted Gross Income, MAGI. The MAGI formula is this. Look on your tax return. It is line 11, which is your AGI, plus any tax-exempt interest, which is on line 2A. So what happens if I'm on Medicare in 2024? They're going to look back at my 2022 return. They always look back 2 years. So in 2025, they're going to look at 2023, 2026, they're going to look at this year. So they always look back 2 years at the modified adjusted gross, line 11 plus line 2A. And that number, the total of that number, is then going to determine how much we pay for our Part B premiums. Now, this year, the threshold, anyone that's single, that is below 103,000 modified adjusted gross, a couple, 206,000 or below, will not have a surcharge called the IRMA. IRMA is an acronym that stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And so if we're below the thresholds, 103 is a single filer, 206 is a married filing a joint return, we will have no additional surcharge added to our Part B. But if I'm above those numbers, above 103, above 206 as a couple, we're going to have an additional surcharge. The lowest level, we actually have 5 levels of IRMAs this year. The lowest level is about $85 a month. Highest level is pushing about $500 a month. Okay. And so we have these 5 different levels. So depending upon where you fall in, those levels will determine if you pay extra. Now, keep this in mind. Let's say that someone is starting Medicare 2024 and their modified adjusted gross was above the thresholds in 2022, but they retire this year and now they're going to go on Medicare. Then what you can do, you can appeal the IRMAs. And by the way, you work with us, we'll guide you through this whole process. We use a form called an SS44, and we appeal the IRMA. So what we do in the appeal process is we let the government know we've had a life-changing event. There's 8 possible life-changing events: a death of a spouse, a marriage, an annulment of the marriage, work stoppage, work reduction, loss of income-producing property, loss of pension. There's 8 of them. And so the point is, most people use the work reduction or work stoppage. And if you retire or semi-retire, then what you can do in the appeal process is say, yes, you are assessing me an IRMA based upon 2022, but I retired in 2023 or I retired in 2024, and you can give them new information. And with the appeal, they'll stop looking back 2 years, and you can either have them look back 1 year or project for the current year, and you can see your IRMAs either reduced or eliminated altogether. And again, we'd be happy to help with that process as well. All right, let's keep going. All right, Tommy says, just enrolled in Part A and B, but haven't chosen supplemental plan or Part D. When do I pay the premium for Part B? Okay, so Tommy, if you're on Social Security, it comes out of your check. I'm assuming you're not. Okay, so the way this works is this. The government is going to bill you quarterly for your Part D premium. So let's just say that you decide you're going to start Medicare, let's say July 1. What's going to happen around the 15th of June, you're actually going to get a bill from them. It's a direct bill for your Part B premiums. Now, keep this in mind. This is kind of an exception to the rule. The direct bill is a quarterly basis, but the very first bill does not necessarily will be a quarterly. It could be as low as 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or even 5 months. Because basically it's a lottery. When you do a self-enrollment and you're not on Social Security and you do that enrollment, one person who just enrolled gets a 2-month bill, next one gets a 3, next one gets a 4, next one gets a 5. And all day long, they just cycle through. So I don't know what your first bill is going to be. Again, 2 to 5 months. So you can stay on the direct bill basis. You can pay it that way. And then after you've paid that first bill, it will be every 3 months thereafter. Okay, now some people don't like to do that. They don't want the hassle of writing a check or even the hassle of having to pay 5 months if they happen to be on a 5-month initial billing. So what you can do is they have another system called Medicare Easy Pay. And the Easy Pay system is a way for you to set up a bank draft through a checking or savings account. And instead of the government billing you quarterly, they will just monthly draft from your bank account. And they draft on the 20th of the month. And there's a lot of people who are doing that today. So if you don't want the hassle of direct bill, then you can set up that way. Another way you can do this is you can actually set up through your mymedicare.gov account. Not myssa.gov, but mymedicare.gov account. And you can actually go online and you can pay your bill that way. A lot of people who pay with a credit card and want to collect points will do that. The government's happy actually to bill a credit card, and you get the benefit of points if you accumulate those. All right, so hope you understand. So the direct bills are always due by the 25th of the month prior. So if my Medicare starts July 1, the bill's going to be June 25th, and I'll probably get it around the 10th or the 15th of the month. They don't come way in advance. And if you get a little bit late, don't worry about it. You always have about 30 days of grace on those direct bills. Okay, Daniel. All right, Robert Curie, question. How do I determine the stability of a potential provider? Well, there's actually two things that I would look at, Robert. Number one, I want to look at the market share. How much of the market does that particular carrier have wherever you are? I had a situation not long ago, I think it was the state of Ohio. We had a lady that was looking at a couple different companies, and one insurance company had, I think it was like 500 or 600 policies in her area. Another carrier had 33,000 policies in her area. Well, which one do you think is going to be the most stable? Because a small group like that 500 or 600 policyholders could be stable as long as the great majority of people that are in that group are going to be healthy. But if you have a lot of cancer in that group, watch out, that thing's going through the roof. There's not enough people in the group to spread the risk out. So that's why we don't like too many local, regional carriers. We like national carriers. Ones are going to have a good market share within that area. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I would take the time, and if you work with us, we always do this, and that is we want to look back at the rate stability of the carrier, because most carriers report all this information, and we can look back for the last 10 years to see how stable they have been in the last 10 years, and more than likely that's going to give us a good idea for what the history of their stability will be as well. So that's the two things. And I'll caution this. Sometimes people just look at the lowest possible premium, and the lowest possible premium may be also a stable company. But you also don't just want to buy the cheapest now, because they could change in the future. So again, those are two things: market share and the size of the group. I give a silly illustration, but it is very true. when I look at a small carrier versus a large carrier, it'd be like being in the ocean and you're in a canoe. That's a small carrier, more of a regional carrier. Not a lot of people in that group. And so if you're in the ocean in a canoe, you're going to feel every single wave that hits your boat. But if I'm in a cruise ship, that's an illustration of a large carrier. Oftentimes, and I've been on a couple cruises, you don't even know you're in the ocean hardly. And so you're not going to feel the impact of some of those healthcare issues going on within the group if that's risk is spread out to more people. So I, again, lean towards more national carriers with that large market share because I'd rather be in the cruise ship in the ocean than in that canoe. All right, let's keep going. Thank you, Daniel. All right, Carol, is untaxed Social Security added to AGI to MAGI for my IRMA calculation? Untaxed. And the answer to that is no. Because I am pretty sure on the tax return, the untaxed number is to the left of the main column. And so let me clarify what I'm saying for those of you that may not even know what she's talking about. Not all of our Social Security is necessarily taxable. We have three different rates. If someone is a single filer and they're receiving Social Security, but their modified adjusted gross income is below $25,000 a year, zero of their Social Security is going to be taxable. Again, we're talking about a single person. If their it's called provisional income is between 25 and 34,000, then 50% of their Social Security is going to be taxable. If they're above, as a single person above 34,000, then 85% of their Social Security is going to be taxable. So all of us are at least 15% exempt. So that's the ranges: 0, 50, and then 85%. For a married that files a joint return, again, we're talking about provisional income. In fact, let me just do this. Let's pause for a second. Make sure you know what I mean by this provisional income. It's your modified adjusted gross income that I just taught you about, which was line 11 plus line 2A, plus whatever you're receiving in Social Security benefits, we take 50% of that. So if you're receiving benefits of $24,000 a year, it would be $12,000 plus your modified adjusted gross income, and that number is called your provisional income. And then we take that provisional income and we apply that to this schedule that I'm teaching you about, that I just taught you about for a single filer. For a married filing a joint return, those numbers are this. Anyone that's below 32,000, again, provisional income below 32,000, 0% of your Social Security is taxable. Anywhere between 32 and 44, 50%, and above 44,000, 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxable. So here's my point. On your tax return, the area where it shows how much is taxable, that is going into your line 11. Okay, so that untaxed should not have any bearing whatsoever on your modified adjusted gross income that's going to determine your Part B premiums. Okay, let's go down. Okay, Stephen. Hi, my RPC is going up 13.5% 2025. Isn't that high? There's no increase due to the periodic decrease in the enrollment discount because we're still here on 68. Okay, well, Stephen, disappointing for sure. But if you're saying, is that high? That is definitely not high as far as the norm right now. Would I say I said that high last year? Do I think it's going to be high in the future? I'd say yes. But right now, I'm telling you, anywhere between that 10 to 15% is pretty average right now. So I don't think it's excessive. I don't. Disappointing, yes. But I will tell you this. What I do think about United Healthcare is long term. I think they're one of the most stable companies there are. Now, there's several others beyond them that are stable, but I do think you are with a good carrier that I think in the long haul is going to be very stable. For those of you that did not quite understand this question, in most states, not all states, United Healthcare actually offers what they call an enrollment discount, and meaning they give you about a 39% discount when you start Medicare at 65. And then every year they reduce that discount. Once you reach 68, they remove that discount by 3%. So once we hit 68, 69, we're going to lose 3% every year. So that's how they raise their rates by reducing that enrollment discount. But again, I think they're a great carrier, been very stable. In fact, I will tell you, we rarely ever have anyone get off United Healthcare supplemental plan and move to another carrier. May happen occasionally, but it's pretty rare because long-term, they've been very stable, great insurance company to work with as well. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Should we consider switching from Plan GDN? I have 1 month remaining in the initial enrollment period. Hey, Tammy, I don't think that's a bad move at all. I really don't. So if you would like to do that, you're obviously within 6 months of your B date. You're beyond that. But as long as you're within that 6 months, you're fine. Again, we're all wired differently. My son just bought a new truck, and the insurance he has, he kind of went with a lower deductible. Some people would have bought that same truck and would have gone with a higher deductible. Okay, so we're just different. So Tammy, if you feel better about that, I really do think that's a fine move to make. I would not tell you that's crazy. If you're comfortable with taking on excess, we know it's rare, so that's not a big risk whatsoever. And you have a few copays, you say, hey, I'm going to go and save that money. I think it's fine to do that. And in fact, we'd be delighted to help you with that. So give us a call, and we'll help you make that move. GDN, no underwriting, because you're in your Medigap open enrollment period. All right, let's go. Okay, Wolf 2 called you guys earlier today. Tina helped right away, no problem. Hey, glad to hear that. Hey, that's what we want you all. We want you to get the kind of service that I think you deserve. And I'll just kind of put just a quick little plug in for us, folks. We invest heavily into our customer service department. In fact, we have more customer service reps than we do agents. Okay, you know why? Because we know things happen, and we want our clients to not have to call some 800 number and end up in China or India or Philippines. We want you to be right here in America, talking to someone that you can understand and they understand Medicare. And every time I say this, I always like to say this: I do not fault these people that work in these call centers in India and China, Africa, and the Philippines. They're just trying to provide for their family. What I get irritated is the insurance companies that truly are making billions of dollars, billions, and they're farming out their customer service to these other countries. And I actually am, some of you would know this, I used to be a pastor. I'm not anymore, haven't for years, but I'm still very heavily involved in missions. And I go to India and love to go to India. And I was there last December. I'm going again this December. And I was asking a guy that was kind of part of our team. I said, he was an Indian. And I said, hey, we know they have these call centers here. And what do they pay these people in these call centers? And I said, what's a good wage in a call center in India? And it's $100 a week. He said, that's a good wage in a call center in India. Well, now you know why these companies farm out their customer service team. I can't get someone, I can get someone so half a day for $100 hardly. Okay, so that's what they're doing. But what's happening is you're not getting the kind of service that you really deserve. And it's frustrating. Calls get moved around and disconnected. And so that's why we as a company have invested heavily into our customer service team. So you do business with us, we will take care of you right in our home office. Okay, enough of that. Let's keep going, Daniel. All right, Sidra, I'm in California. Going to sign up for Plan G. Are you still recommending United Healthcare as being the most stable? I'll say this, Sidra. I think United Healthcare is one of definitely the most stable companies. We're a broker, so we really do write for multiple carriers. So in your market, we'd be happy to pull all those up, and let's see what is going on right now with those companies, okay? And also, Sidra, California is a birthday rule state. And so what happens is, let's say down the road, rates were to change, then 30 days before your birthday, and I think up to about 60 days after, you can move with no underwriting, like to like or like to less. So if you go to the G, we can move to another G during birthday rule or move to an N. And so, but again, we like United Healthcare. We really do. I'm not necessarily promoting them on this. That's not my point. I'm just saying to you, we have found them to be a very a rate stable carrier, along with a few others as well. All right. Robert, why is hearing and vision not offered as a plan? Robert, it actually is, but if you have a supplemental plan, that additional coverage would be a separate premium and a separate plan. There are plans out there right now we call these standalone or ancillary products that actually have dental, vision, and hearing. Now, I will tell you this. Within those plans, I think the dental and the vision is really nice. The hearing, minimal. Okay. And so you're asking why not? Here's why. Because when Medicare started back in 1965, they made the decision that they were basically just going to cover things that they deemed at that time to be medically necessary. They're going to cover. And sadly, now in 58 years, that has never changed. So that's why it's not in original Medicare and the coverage for the supplemental plans. There's been some push for that. I wish it would happen for sure. But let me clarify this also, Robert. I think the biggest issue probably is someone that needs hearing aids that's an original Medicare. That's a struggle. But I do know now you can get good hearing aids, just regular non-prescription over the counter that are high quality. Secondly, if you have any vision issues, those are well covered by original Medicare. Very good. And covered by your supplemental plan. The only thing that original Medicare A and B, traditional Medicare, and supplemental plans will not cover will be eye exams for eyewear, and eyewear. That's it. So cataracts covered, glaucoma covered well, macular degeneration, wet or dry form covered very well. Injections in the eye if you have wet macular degeneration, eye drops covered by Part D plan. So you really do have great vision coverage. If you want a standalone plan, the most common today are iMed and VSP. Those are going to range anywhere from about additional $10 or $15 a month to get that eye exam covered and some help with eyewear. All right. So, hey, I'm on your team. I wish they would change it, but so far that has not happened. That's the why. Okay. All righty, Joel, Tennessee. Is it better to buy a Part D plan and keep regular Medicare A and B, or is an Advantage plan the best route? Okay. Well, first off, when it comes to your Part D plan comes in one of two ways. Either it's a standalone if you have a supplemental plan, or it's embedded within your Advantage plan. Okay, so that's the way we buy Part D plans, standalone or embedded. So back now to your question, is Advantage plan the best route? It really depends on how you want your insurance to work and look. One of the reasons that people struggle with Advantage plans is because of networks. In fact, just today, I read an article that there was a large hospital group. I think they had 140 hospitals. They dropped one Advantage company totally. They said, we're done with this Advantage company. They pay us slow. We have denials, and they were just frustrated. And the whole hospital group is now out of network. Okay, so that's the issue that you face with Advantage plans. Now, does that happen every day? No. But does it happen often? Yes. And so you have to be resolved that if you want an Advantage plan, you are going to be fine with network restrictions and network limitations because not every doctor, not every hospital is going to take the Advantage plan. So if you're fine with that, then Advantage plan may be a good option. When you have a supplemental plan, you never worry about that. Why? Because the supplemental company will allow you to go to any provider as long as they take Medicare. Well, why would you want to go to a provider that didn't take Medicare? That'd be crazy. You want them to take your A and B, and then your supplemental plan will fill in the gaps. So my point is, you can go anywhere you want, any hospital, any doctor, any oncologist, any surgeon, as long as they take Medicare. They will take your supplemental plan. All right. So that's one reason I like them. Second reason is because the Advantage plans still have the final say so with about 70% of your healthcare services. That's called a pre-authorization. So you're on an Advantage plan and you need a knee replacement or a hip replacement or, CAT scan or MRI or something. That Advantage company has the final say so. Your doctor recommends, but unless that Advantage company agrees with the doctor and covers the service, you're not going to get it. I've seen it happen scores of times when people did not get what they should have gotten because the Advantage plan did not agree. They'll say, yeah, go to therapy for 9 months, then we'll revisit the hip replacement or whatever. And so now you have pre-authorization 70% of the time. If you have a supplemental plan, you never have that. That insurance company can never interfere. They can never delay. They can never deny. If Medicare says we'll cover it, doctor says you need it, end of story. Okay, so you're asking me the better route. So if you say to me, I'm fine with pre-authorizations, I'm fine with networks, I'm fine with the fact if I go on that Advantage plan, I stay on it a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years and want to get off, I'm fine that now I have to medically qualify to get a supplemental plan. So when people have serious health issues, I highly discourage them, unless they can't afford a premium, I highly discourage them from getting an Advantage plan because once they're on that Advantage plan, they stay on it long term. To get off of it, they have to medically qualify. And if they're not healthy enough, they cannot do that. And now they're stuck in that system where the private health insurance company has the final say so, network issues, all those kind of things. And they got to live with that decision for the rest of their life. All right. And so best route, maybe for some, my opinion is there's a place for Advantage plans, but if I can afford, $125, $135, $40 a month extra, I would get high quality medical coverage. Sure, I don't have all the little perks offered, but I'm more concerned about what if I get cancer or have a heart issue, or I want to go to a certain oncologist. I don't want the insurance company intervening with their restrictions of pre-authorizations and networks. All right. Okay, let's keep going. All right, Beth, got to plan in with you. Darren, yeah, Darren is a great guy. He is a hard worker, also a great golfer. Okay, got a plan with Darren. His name is Darren Neal. Back in August when I turned 65, best decision ever. Already saved a ton with unexpected eye condition, which thankfully was nothing serious. Okay, Beth, well, thanks for letting us know. And Darren's a pro. He's just a great guy, real humble, quiet, soft-spoken guy, but pro in our business. So thanks for the encouragement. All right, Sidra, how often do you see excess charge in California? You know what? I think pretty rare, but I will say this, Sidra. I don't think that California is one of the 8 states where they can't be charged. In other words, 8 states says they can't even be charged. And I'm sorry, I at one time had that list memorized, but there's 8 states that say not even possible to have excess charges. I don't think California is one of them. And that being said, I don't think they happen often. And again, they happen less than 5% of the time anyways. And so I'm sorry that I'm forgetting that list, but again, 8 states don't allow it, other 42 do, but it doesn't happen often. Okay, Daniel. Okay, Marie and Edward B. My husband is 85, relatively healthy. He's on a plan F right now. I'm thinking of going to G. I understand you have to pay the deductible, but is that the only difference with plan G? Exactly right. Yeah, here's the way to look at it, Marie and Edward. Medicare has 6 gaps, 3 on the A, 3 on the B. And so your plan F covers all 6 gaps. All of them. You should never get a bill. If you decide to take that G plan, it's going to cover 5 of the 6 gaps. So the one gap not covered is your Medicare B deductible. Now listen, if you make that move right now, if he's already met that deductible, I know he didn't meet it out of pocket, but if the plan paid that deductible, all those records are within Medicare, so he wouldn't have to meet it this year. But whatever that deductible is in 2025, however they set that, beginning January 1, then you would have to pay the first, whatever it is, out of your pocket. This year it's $240. Only difference. Okay. Newcomers. My father's on Medicaid and in the nursing home. Does he need to continue carrying his D and F plans? Okay. All right. Well, one of the issues about Medicaid is that if he is using Medicaid as a secondary payer, then he has to use Medicaid providers. Okay. If he keeps his F plan, then he can have any provider that takes Medicare. So if you tell me you all are comfortable with him using Medicaid providers only, then he does not need to keep that. Okay, he could drop that F plan. But again, you're gonna take it from all kinds of providers down to very little. Now, if he's at an age where you don't think even if something were to happen, he's going to go through a lot of serious treatment, then you may be fine with that. Nothing wrong with Medicaid, but the only way Medicaid pays bills is if you're seeing a Medicaid-approved provider, and those are not, they are truly few and far between. All right, so that's that issue. Now, the drug plan, the way that should be working, if when that drug plan was set up properly, whoever wrote it for you all, let the drug plan know that he's on Medicaid, then Medicaid is paying for some of his prescriptions as well. So he does need to keep that. He does, because his self-administered meds that he's getting at the nursing home, that Part D plan is paying for that. All right. Now, if he's on a plan that Medicaid is not helping with, you can, no, that's not true. You could change that right now. You would qualify for what's called an SEP. And he actually could change his drug plan to a plan that Medicaid participates in financially. I would say pretty much he's probably on one of those plans, but if he's not, I'd get on one. And again, he has to keep that Part D plan, because remember, if he happens to go to the hospital, then those hospital meds are going to be covered by original Medicare and Medicaid. His Part D plans are self-administered. Okay, so that's why I'm saying he has to have both of those plans. All right, let's keep going. Okay, Dr. Hunter, question. Will I be approved to change Medicare letters if my Medicaid plan is up in July? Okay. Now, boy, your Medicaid plan. I don't know what you mean by that, to change Medicare letters if my Medicaid plan is up in July. I don't understand your scenario. So, Doc Hunter, if you could just maybe reword that question, give me a little bit more clarity, I'm happy to answer it. So please respond again. Daniel, let's keep going. Okay, current client, does a gain on the sale of a home impact towards IRMA calculations? Okay, number one for everyone, I am not an accountant. I'm not pretending to be an accountant whatsoever. So my understanding would be that the only time you would have um, uh, uh, impact from the sale of a home is if you held that less than 2 years. Then that would be an ordinary income gain, and that needs to be reported on your tax return. But I'm pretty sure if it's the sale of a home and that's exempt because all the other rules that are going along with that, then I do not believe that money is going to count towards your IRMA. But please talk to your accountant to clarify that. Okay. But that would be my understanding of that. And if someone else knows something that you really know something, will make a comment, let us know. I don't want to give out any bad advice. Okay, let's go. All right. Okay, I'm on about 11K worth of medication every month. We'll turn 65 at the end of the year. What plan would you suggest for me? Mrs. in relatively good health. She turns 65 next year. Okay, here's the good news for you. Let's say you're on a drug plan, you say at the end of the year. So what happens this year? You're spending $11,000. I think you said, Daniel, was that a month or a year? 11 count worth every month. Okay. So let's say that someone right now is on Medicare and they're $11,000 a month. The most they would spend, as long as the medication is in formulary, probably is, highly likelihood it is. So as long as we have a medication formulary covered by Medicare, the most anyone spends this year is about $3,350. That's the cap on out-of-pocket expenses for self-administered medications. $3,350 this year. That cap is moving to $2,000 next year. So you said you had $11,000 a year. So, what is that? $130,000 a year. It's capped out this year at $3,350, next year at $2,000. So you want to get a standalone Part D plan. Now, I don't know what the premium is going to be. Right now, they're very reasonable. I think we're going to see some increases next year, but still, it's going to be very, very reasonable. Even if you had to pay $50 a month for a drug plan, your cap is $2,000 next year. So you want to get a Part D plan. And that may be better than your work plan now. In the old days, work plans tend to be better than what Medicare would be with drugs. But now that we've had this cap, it's really very attractive as well. All right, let's keep going. Brand, is underwriting required down the road, going from G plan from the initial care to G plan from it? Yes, except in states that are called birthday rule states. It is required. So you all, again, my memory is not perfect here, but let's go through the list. Here would be the states where you would not have to go through underwriting if you move from a G to a G or a G to an N. It's called like to like or like to less. California, Oregon, Washington. And by the way, Washington, this move is 12 months a year. California, Oregon are around the birthday. Idaho, Nevada, Illinois, but that's only between the ages of 65 and 75. State of Missouri, it's 30 days plus or minus the anniversary of the policy, not birthday, but the same concept, called Missouri Anniversary Rule. Louisiana, Kentucky, Maryland. Okay, those are the states that are birthday rule states. If you happen to live in New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, or Massachusetts, those states have other open enrollment periods where you actually can switch plans like to like or like to less more year round versus just tied to the birthday. Okay, there's 16 of those total. So hopefully I named them all for you. Again, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. I think I skipped out that one. Kentucky, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts. So those should be 16 states where they have some rules beyond the normal federal guidelines. The other states, now we're going to have to deal with underwriting. Okay. All right, Michael, if you are only been on your G plan since 1/1/2024, can you change your plan without underwriting since it's been less than 6 months? Okay, yes, sir, you can. And so that's, now let me clarify something. I am assuming, Michael, that your B date was also 1/1/24. Okay, so if that's the case, because sometimes people pick a supplemental plan up after that. So I'm assuming, yes, if 1/1/24 is your B date as well as your supplemental plan, you have all of January, February, March, April, May. You can go all the way to June for an application for a July 1 effective date, and you can still change and without any kind of underwriting involved. Okay, so it's B date plus effective date. All right. Tamara, I am one of your clients. Thank you. Appreciate the honor, privilege to serve you. I live in Florida, have a G plan. I plan to stay on it, but if I move to another state, how does that work with premium cost? I live in that area has higher premiums. Okay, here, Florida and the state of New York are very unique. So here's the rules. Depending upon who you have, who your carrier is. With some carriers, if you're with them, what happens in Florida and New York, if you move out of the state, you have the right to either keep the Florida rate or the rate that is in the state where you're moving to, as long as that state's lower. So you have the best of both worlds. Keep the same plan you have, or you'll have the lower rate if you move to a different state. So okay, that's Florida. Now, I'm not saying all carriers do that, but I know some that do that. And so here's what happens as a general rule beyond what I just taught in Florida and New York. When you move from one state to another, the policy is portable. You can take those supplemental plans, any of them. I don't care what letter you have. I don't care what company you have. You can take them with you. They're totally portable. They can never be canceled except for non-payment of premium. So as long as we're paying our premium, those are totally portable policies. And then what happens with most carriers is they're going to re-rate you. They'll re-rate you. If the rates are higher, then they raise the rate. Again, my exception, New York, Florida. Or if the rate's lower, we actually seen them go down as well. Sometimes they stay flat. So it's really at the carrier's discretion, whatever rules that they have for those kind of moves. But that's one of the beauties of supplemental plans. They're yours for life, can never be canceled except non-payment of premium, not canceled because of relocation. All right, Daniel. All right, Dolores, I'm enrolled in Cobra Dental. Does it automatically discontinue or can I keep it? Well, Cobra lasts either for 18 months or 36 months, depending upon your scenario. Most people have Cobra 18 months. And so if it's an 18-month Cobra plan, then it is going to be discontinued on that 18th month. You cannot renew it after that. Now, if you have a 36-month situation, which is because of death or divorce or your spouse, went on Medicare, then that could be 36 months. Then it's going to terminate. But they will terminate after that. And again, what I would do if I were you, if you like the plan, just call them up and say, hey, after my plan terminates, can I get an individual plan from your company? And they may offer those to individuals. So I check into that. And then if not, just find a normal individual standalone dental plan. All right, Debbie, can I call and set up an appointment to sign up? I turned 65 in November this year. I already received Social Security due to my husband's passing away. Yes. Okay, very good. Debbie, you can. And you see the toll-free number there, the 833-833-3661. And so, Daniel, can you put that question back up again? I want to address that real quickly, if you don't mind. Okay, there we go. So here's the way it works for you, Debbie. Because you're receiving survivor benefit, you're going to be automatically enrolled into Medicare. So you says your birthday is in November, so I'm assuming it's November 2nd, at the end of the month. Let's back up the clock. October, September, August. So you're going to get your Medicare card mailed to you around the 15th to the 25th of July. The Medicare card is going to show up because anyone that's receiving Social Security benefits, whether that's their own retirement, survivor, or spousal benefits, is automatically enrolled into Medicare A and B. And so your card's going to show. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you weren't in this situation, we'd sign you up for A and B. We do it all day long. Okay. We're happy to help people sign up for A and B. Okay. But you're not going to have to do that. So what you're going to need, though, of course, is supplemental plan or drug plan or Advantage plan. So yes, you can call in and we'd be happy to help you. And really, you can call in anytime from now on. I mean, right now, happy to help you. See the toll-free number there, call in and get one of our great agents. And by the way, I've trained every single one of them. And I'm in the office every day but Friday, helping and assisting. And so the agents know what they're doing. In fact, some of them, I think they're better than me. So we'll give you some good help. Let's keep going. All right, Bruce. Marvin. Bruce from Rhode Island. I'm on Social Security. Kenna, I'm on Medicare and have Parts A and B with supplemental plan G. I'm thinking of going back to work. Can I do this without a penalty? Yes, you can. Now, Bruce, what I would do if I were you, number one, if you go back to work, before you make that decision to drop all this, definitely look at what the employer is going to offer you. They may have good insurance. It may be 100% paid for. It's a great plan. And then I would encourage you to go ahead and get off the employer plan. The second option you have, sometimes people in your situation really don't want to get off their Medicare plan. So they will let the employer know, hey, I have my own insurance. And sometimes they'll give you more pay because they're not going to have to pay for your benefits. Again, not always, but I definitely would check on that. But if they say, no, we're not going to give you more pay, but we'll offer your plan. If it's a good plan, low deductible, like your supplemental plan is, and low out of pocket, good drug coverage, you're happy with the plan, then here's what you do. What I would do is this: if as long as the group that you're going to work for has 20 employees on the payroll or more, I would go ahead and drop Part B as well. And the way you drop Part B is you fill out a form called a 1763. So if you go back to work and your plan's going to, let's say you're going back to work July 1, I would fill out my form, send it in before July 1, 1763, and let them know that you want to drop off Part B. Now, on that form, Part B is called supplemental insurance, supplemental. A is hospital, B is medical, are called supplemental. And so you're dropping your Medicare Part B, and tell them the reason. You're going back to work and you have great coverage, and they'll drop off the B. And then when you retire from this job, then you can reapply for Part B. Of course, the reason I'm telling you to do this is why pay for Part B if you have a good group plan? So drop the Part B, and then you can pick up B at a later date. And your key is this: once you go back to work, you want to keep active work, active employment, and active insurance at work, because you want to be eligible to come into Medicare at a later date using this SCP process. I talked about it earlier, using the L564 and the 40B. And so what we have to do to bring you in later, let's say you work 2 more years, what we have to do is we'll let them know you come in without penalties and problems with an SEP because you had Medicare for a certain period of time and you had a group plan with no gaps in coverage. Okay, that's what makes you do this. So would I do that? Absolutely. First thing I'd probably do is try to negotiate, get a better salary, because I doubt the group plan is going to be better than Medicare, but it could be cheaper. So that's when I would go ahead and drop Medicare. And then you'll call your supplemental company, you'll call your drug company, and let them know that you're dropping their coverage as well because you're returning to work. And everybody has to let you go. So in that scenario, the only thing you would have is you have Part A only, and then Medicare will send you a new card that says Medicare Part A only, the hospital side, and then again you can pick up B at a later date. Okay, Daniel. Charles, does anyone ever sign up for the other plans besides G or N? Occasionally, not often. Okay, I would say probably 97, 98% of the people are going to have a G or N. The other plans that are available for people that are born after January 1st, 1955, starting Medicare after 1/1/2020, would be Medicare Supplemental Plan A, which only covers 2 of the 6 gaps, Medicare Supplemental Plan B, which covers 3 of the 6 gaps. And then you have a plan that's called the D plan. The problem with the D plan, it's a good plan. It covers 4 of the 6 gaps, but there's hardly any insurance companies that offer that plan. Okay, so not a bad plan. It's just hardly ever offered. And then we go to what's called a K plan and an L plan. And what they do is they each cover 4 of the 6 gaps, but of the gaps they cover, the K plan only covers 50%. L plan covers 75%. All right. So again, there's reasons why people are going with the G and the N plan, primarily because it's more comprehensive coverage. Plus, G and N also give you outside the country. You've got a foreign travel emergency benefit, and a couple of the plans, the others that you ask about, just don't cover those things. So there's a reason people get them. It's because they have more comprehensive coverage, and it's just much easier to use those plans. Okay, here we go. Tina, do Advantage plans cover all services Medicare covers, plus those they do not, such as ultrasound, breast cancer exams for women, dense breasts? Okay, Tina, Advantage plans are supposed to cover all Medicare services, but the problem is they don't. Okay, and that's sad. Okay, and I'm not saying, by the way, listen, folks, there's 4,000 Advantage plans in the country, like 3,800 this year, lots of them. The average market has 45. Now, of those, average of 45 plans, there's going to be about 9 carriers that are offering those plans. And so I will tell you this, there are some good players in the Advantage market, good players, meaning they do their best to try to match what Medicare would cover. But there's plenty of bad actors in this business who deny coverage that they should be covering, that Medicare would cover. And that's one of the reasons the government is cracking down on them. Now, I think it's going to be way out before they ever make any progress on that, but they are attempting. So technically, yes, they're supposed to, but do they do it as a general rule? No. There have been plenty of people that should have stayed in a skilled nursing facility for 25, 30 days that the Advantage plan algorithm said, no, you're gone in 18 days, and they're gone in 18 days. And that happens all the time. plenty of people that should have had a knee replacement, full knee or full hip replacement, and the Advantage Plan comes back and say, no, you don't. You need therapy for 9 months. Or no, we're not going to pay for a full hip. We'll pay for a rod instead. Those kind of things are nonsense, but they happen all the time. And by the way, this is not my opinion. You can go online and look at some of the horror stories of people that have been on Advantage Plans, and that company was not a good player, not a good actor, and those people suffered because of it. It's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of them. Now, listen, folks, just so you know, the reason agents push Advantage Plans is because we make twice the commission and we get lifetime residual income. It's very profitable for us to write Advantage Plans, okay? But is it the best coverage for you? Well, probably not coverage, but you may not be able to afford an additional premium. And so that's really the place for Advantage. But if you're looking for high quality medical coverage, you're always going to go with a supplemental plan for the very reason I just explained, because now when you have an Advantage Plan, you have a private health insurance company that's in charge. Okay. And you got extra hoops to jump through for services and such. And that can be very annoying. Now, listen, if you're healthy, you'll never notice it. But get cancer, you'll notice it. Have a some kind of heart issue, you're going to notice these disadvantages with the Advantage Plan. All right, let's keep going, Daniel. All right, Deborah, is Aflac a stable? Gee, I think they just got in the market. Well, Deborah, we don't know yet. We believe Aflac will be a stable company just because of their name recognition, which means there are going to be a lot of people take them. And so, as I taught earlier, the size of the group and the market share that they have will determine their stability. So there's no way we can prove that they're going to be stable, but because of who they are, I don't think they enter the market to lowball. They are very attractive right now. I quoted them today. They weren't the lowest. They were probably second or third lowest, but we do believe they'll be stable. But again, only time's going to tell that. But again, Aflac is they're a very successful company. And so they hurt themselves by lowballing rates and not keeping to those rates. So I think they're going to be like an Aetna or United Healthcare or some of those other carriers that I think are pretty stable. I do know that the Aflac business is actually underwritten and the manager of that book of business is Aetna, and so I think they're going to pretty much follow kind of the Aetna way of doing business, which really has frankly been very good. Okay, let's keep going. All right, Dreama. My husband and I have been working with Evan Cruz, and he has been great. No matter how many emails or questions, he gets back with me very quickly. And when my answer is, hey, Evan is one of our top agents and a swell gentleman. So thanks so much. Listen, when Evan came to us, just so you know, because he'd been in sales before, but in medical, but not in Medicare. And the moment I laid eyes on that guy and taught him, I could tell he was going to be excellent, and he is. And so I'm glad you've had a good experience. Okay. Well, living in Canada, I turned 65 at Canadian insurance, so I didn't file for Medicare. I just moved back to the States. I'm eligible for enrollment. You know what? I wish I knew. This is a weak area of mine. I tell you what I would do. Why don't you call your local Social Security office and ask them? I do think that you are. Because you're in Canada and you did have coverage. So I think you have kind of a special enrollment period, but I don't want to be dogmatic about that. I had somebody recently from Thailand ask the same thing. So these rules have changed through the years, and I'm just not 100% confident. So I don't want to tell you something wrong. Please call them and tell them your scenario, and I sure hope it works out for you. You don't have to have a penalty. Okay, Daniel. All right. Why get a supplemental plan? B covers 80%. 80% of what? Okay. Well, first off, let me share a stat with you. Very interesting stat, folks. Right now in our country, there is $220 billion of medical debt. $220 billion unpaid, hospitals, doctor bills, all that. The second largest holder of that debt in our country are people that are Medicare eligible. Why? Because they either had A only or they didn't have any supplemental plan beyond that. And so if a person decides to have A only forever or A and B only, what you do, Mitchell, is you put yourself in a very risky position. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that's why to get a supplemental plan because I don't want the liability. And here's the real kicker. If you have a health issue, do you realize that every doctor that you see, if you have a surgery, the surgeon, the attending physician, the anesthesiologist in that room, you're responsible for 20% of that bill. If you had A only, you're responsible for 80% of the bill. And so that's why people get a supplemental plan, because they would rather pay, $125 a month, $150 a month, whatever it is, to eliminate that risk. Why? Because they don't want to go in that column of holding a lot of debt. Now, if you're healthy the rest of your life, you'd never notice it. But if you have a health issue, you'd be grateful you had a supplemental plan. Now, listen, there are some people that cannot afford that additional premium. They can't. So what I would do in that scenario is get a low or no premium Medicare Advantage plan, because that's much better than having A and B only. Why? Because A and B has no max limit, no cap on it, no out-of-pocket limit. Just keep going and going and going. But at least with my Advantage plan, though I don't like networks and I don't like pre-authorizations, I still like the fact that every Advantage plan has a max out-of-pocket. $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year. So even if you didn't have that money, you're going to go to collections, but you're not going to owe 20 grand or 50 grand. Hey, I had a lady who did exactly what you're talking about, and she messed up, and her bill was $80,000. So when we talk about supplemental plans, they're filling in those gaps that Medicare did not cover. So that's why you do it, or get the Advantage. That definitely is better than nothing. Okay. I'm currently on Medi-Cal, but I'm turning 65 in August. How is that going to work with me? Well, my encouragement to you is this: you want to talk to them in advance and ask them, are you going to lose your Medi-Cal eligibility when you turn 65? Because sometimes you do. Sometimes people have to reapply for that, and so that's the first thing that you do. If you keep it, then what's going to happen is then you will qualify for what's called a Medicare Advantage dual eligible Medicare and Medicaid type of a plan. And some of those are very attractive, and you'll probably have very little out of pocket. Again, that's a dual eligible Medicare, Medicaid plan. But first, make sure you're still going to be eligible. All righty, boss. How is your company compensated for your services? Okay, good question. We are actually paid by the insurance companies. Really, it's, folks, no different than most insurance. Most insurance, whether it's homeowners or auto, life insurance, whatever, the insurance company pays the agent a commission. So we receive a commission, not paid by you, but paid by the insurance company. It's the cost of them doing business. But the good thing is it didn't cost you extra. Let me just make up a quick example. Let's say that you decide you want to go with United Healthcare, or you want to go that, or you go with Mutual of Omaha, whoever, and the premium's $125 a month if you went direct with them. If you call us, the premium's the same. So we don't set the premiums. The insurance company sets the premium. So you pay the same price whether you use a captive agent or you use a broker. We think broker is better because now we stay on top of that. We write for multiple carriers, and so we watch to see how things are going in the market, and we'll help you if you ever need to switch plans. If you go direct with a carrier, you think they're going to encourage you to go somewhere else that has a lower price? No way. I'm not going to do that. That's not in their best interest. So brokers give the ability to make those switches when that's necessary. And if they're good, they're also going to take good service, customer service for you as well. Okay, so we are paid by the insurance companies, never by you. I've never sent a single bill to a client of ours, ever. Never will. They don't pay us. Okay, Elizabeth, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for all your videos. They've been valuable in helping my dad navigate. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. That's an encouragement. We love to teach people, and count it a privilege to be able to educate people. So I'm glad your dad has been helped by them. We try to put out 2 a week. We've been awfully busy this week, so this week's not going so good, but almost always 2 new videos every single week for our, hey, and also subscribe when you go on there, please. Doesn't cost anything. It certainly helps us and helps get those videos out to other people as well. Can you explain PPO plans? I sure can. Okay, Jane, anytime you see the word PPO as it relates to Medicare, it's always an Advantage plan. The initials PPO stands for Preferred Provider Organization. The other kind of plans are called HMOs, Health Maintenance Organizations. And so I will tell you this, if I had to choose between those two, because remember, if you have a supplemental plan, you don't have PPOs or HMOs. Supplemental plans, you have open access, no networks, go anywhere you want. But if I have to choose HMO or PPO, I would prefer to go with the PPO plan, and here's why. Because with the PPO plan, I'm going to have a much larger network. Why? Follow the money. So when an Advantage company offers plans, they're going to have both HMOs and PPOs. But the doctors and hospitals and other providers that agree to do business with them on an HMO get less money. The PPO contract pays the providers more money. Therefore, there's more providers willing to be in that network. Now, some doctors, hospitals don't participate in any network, but the PPO network is going to be much larger for you. That's one benefit of a PPO. Now, the second benefit is the PPO has to allow you to go out of their network HMOs do not. If you go out other than emergency, they don't pay anything. But a PPO says you can go out. Now, when you go out, it's going to cost you more than if you stay in the network, but at least you have the benefit to do that. So if you have cancer and you want to get a second opinion from an oncologist, that's not a network, you can still go out of the network and have that, as long as that provider, of course, takes Medicare and takes the plan, which is normal, then at least you have that flexibility. So that's what a PPO means. Broader network, more options, and the out-of-network as well. Okay. Brent C., is there an appeal process in Medicare themselves don't approve a doctor's recommended treatment on a supplement plan? Okay, first off, you would never have a supplemental plan that you would appeal to for any coverage, because supplemental plans can never deny coverage, interfere. Okay, that'll never happen, Brent, ever. Okay, so there's never an appeal process because it's not possible. If original Medicare A and B covers something, your supplemental plan absolutely will 100% of the time. They will. Based upon the letter you bought, you're covered. Okay, so now, if Medicare is denying something, then yes, there is an appeal process for that. Officially, I've never helped someone through that. I've never had to before. And so if you want to appeal something that they're not willing to cover, then I know there's an appeal process. And I just go online and search for that. And it's probably not too cumbersome. But I will tell you this, I've been in this business 15 years and I've never had it happen one time ever. Okay. We did have a situation come up where an excess charge was being charged, but the provider did not disclose that to the client. And so I helped those people appeal that, and they had to drop the excess because they're supposed to notify you if that's going to occur. But the situation you had described there, I've never seen that happen ever. Okay. All right. Let's keep going, Daniel. All right, Robert, I'm 65, just retired. My wife is younger. If I pursue a supplemental plan, can she be covered on the same plan? And the answer is, if she's not on Medicare, no, she can't be. Supplemental plans are individual plans. I currently have Medicare A and not B yet. I'm on COBRA currently. Okay. Now listen, Robert, you are not in a good position, sir. Okay. So if you're telling me that you're on COBRA and you're 65 and you're no longer working, you need to get on a supplemental plan or something June 1, because here's your problem, Robert. And a lot of people do this and don't know it. What's happened is that in this position, with you being Medicare eligible, no longer working on COBRA, if you have a claim, Robert, your COBRA plan is only going to pay second. You're obligated to go on Medicare as soon as you're on COBRA. If you're 65, you've got to be on Medicare, and that COBRA plan will pay, but they only pay second. So if in your position right now, during the month of May, if you had a claim, you are the first payer, sir. Okay. And if you have A only, of course, hospital is going to be covered by Medicare and your COBRA plan pays second, but everything on the B side, which is all doctor services, anything outpatient, all that, you're going to be the 80% payer because COBRA is only going to pay that 20%. So you need to take action now. I mean, really, call our office. We'll help you get on the right situation there, but you've got to get enrolled in Medicare B. You're way, way too risky. In fact, that $80,000 mistake I mentioned earlier, that's what happened. Was on COBRA, had a health problem, and didn't enroll in Medicare. $80,000 it cost that lady. All right, let's keep going. Cheryl, how soon should one see if they can qualify for something currently on a Advantage plan? Okay, Cheryl, right now you can do that October 15th through December 7th. So that would be the next time to do that. You're going to keep your Advantage plan through the end of the year. You have to now. And so October 15th, December 7th. Now, what I would do, Cheryl, if you would like, you can call our office anytime. Call now. And we can actually gather your information right now, your medications, your whole situation, get all that set up so that once the open enrollment season begins October 15th, our agent can call you back and we can go through that process. Plus, you can also ask them now what health questions are going on so you can kind of get a feel if that's going to be really a good possibility for you or not. So call it anytime. Again, you're on your Advantage plan to the end of the year, but you can make that decision application October 15th. All right, Daniel. Okay, Richard, currently my monthly Medicare premium is debited from my checking account in October. And for retirement age, I want to start receiving Social Security. How will my premium? It's going to, okay. So as soon as you receive your Social Security, now keep this in mind. If you reach your full retirement age in October, your first Social Security check is going to arrive in November. So they will continue to do that bank draft through October, and then November, when you get your Social Security check, that Part B premium will come out of that. So they'll automatically stop the Medicare Easy Pay and start taking out Social Security. Gianna, what happens if your employer has 20 employees and 1 or 2 quits or is fired? Well, that's a good question. Wow. You know what, Gianna? I've never had it happen. I would, you know what I would do? That's a pretty technical question. I would, let me tell you what I'd do. I would call your insurance company. Why don't you call them and ask them and see, and the way to word it, say, now that we have less than 19 employees, am I required to go on Medicare? How are you all going to coordinate those benefits? Now, listen, if they say, oh, we'll continue to pay as we have been, then what I would want that in writing from them. Because even though it's a small group, because the last thing you want to do is if a claim comes through and you all have 18 employees or 19 employees, and then they say, no, you should enroll in Medicare, you can say, no, you told me I didn't have to. Because my gut feeling is if that employer is going to stay small like that, that it probably as soon as possible, I would probably be going on Medicare. Okay, that's probably what I would do. But again, call. And you know what? I will tell you, the average person that answers the phone and a Social Security office is probably not going to know that at all. So you're going to probably need to ask to be transferred to a supervisor. Now, I would tell you this, I don't think I would call Medicare right out of the gate, you know, the 1-800 Medicare number, because they normally deal with claims and those kind of issues. So this is more of an enrollment question. So that's why I'd call your local Social Security office and also ask for a supervisor. Okay, because I'm just telling you, the ones who answer the phone, not to say they're incompetent, but usually the people who've been there a while that can answer your question, probably not answering phones. Okay, so ask for them. I'd love to know the answer to that, but I don't. Hey, Daniel, you need to note that, and we need to find that one out. Okay, can you explain the donor hole? Yes, ma'am. The donor hole, number one, is this is the last year for it. We will not have it in 2025. So the donor hole is one of the 4 phases of or stages, they're called, in Part D plans. It's a third one. And so the donor hole number this year is, I think it's $5,050. I'm sorry if I'm off a little bit, but I think that's right. So what happens is, as we get our prescriptions filled in phase 1 and 2, which is called deductible phase and initial coverage phase, we get our prescriptions filled. And as we get those filled, the pharmacy, as along with Medicare, is tracking the retail costs. Now, listen, you're not hardly ever paying retail cost except maybe the deductible. You're paying a fraction of the cost, but they track retail cost. And so once the retail cost reaches a certain number, and Daniel, I've got 5,050 in my mind, if maybe 5,300 this year. I am really sorry. The older I get, the some of these numbers I forget. But the point is, they track retail. So once we reach that retail threshold number, if we do, and very few people do, 1 out of 10 do, but if we reach the retail threshold, that puts us then into the donor hole. So again, we don't reach the donor hole unless the total cost of our medications on a retail basis is that number. I want to say 5,050. It could be 5,300 this year. But once we reach it, we go to the donor hole. And then in the donor hole, our copayment changes. And we pay a flat 25% of the retail cost in the donor hole. And we stay in that donut hole until we spend about $2,000. And then we go to stage 4, which is called catastrophic. And in catastrophic this year, we're 0 out of pocket. So here's my point to you. Even though, yes, we have the donor hole, the most anyone will spend in 2024 out of their pocket will be $3,350. I don't care if they're on a medication that costs $15,000 a month. It makes no difference. You'll spend no more than that. So yes, the donor hole is painful. Yes, our copay goes up a little bit, but it's nothing like it used to be. Okay, Daniel's put on the screen there, 5,030. Okay, so that's what it is. Good. So again, that's retail cost. You would have paid about maybe $1,500 of that. The rest of that was actually covered by the plan itself, but that's retail. Okay, and remember, next year, no donor hole. We only have 2 stages. And well, really 3. You have a deductible, which next year I think is $540. It went down a little bit, and then we cap out at $2,000 for the whole year out of pocket. You pay your premium for the plan, but all your meds no more than $2,000. You're immediately in catastrophic, 0 out of your pocket beyond $2,000. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, Joseph. I tell everyone I come across that's approaching 65 where their parents are to check your website for information. Hey, thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it very much and keep up the good work, please. We love when we help people, and thank you for helping us do that as well. So send them our way. We'll take care of them. All right. June Daly is a drug plan that dropped its monthly premium to 50 cents a month, going to gain clients a risky plan to join. Well, not this year. So if it's the right drug plan for you this year, it's fine to do that. We got lots of people on that plan. It's WellCare. A lot of states, it's zero premium. Now, the question is, June, what's that going to look like next year? We don't know yet. The plans are not out. I would suspect those are going up. But it was a good decision if it was a good match for your medication. So not risky. And remember, next year, they have the right to change the plan. And that's why you have the right to change plans. So October 15th to December 7th, you'll have the opportunity to enroll in the best plan for you for 2025. Don't know what that's going to be. It still could be that WellCare plan. We'll have to see. But you didn't take any risk. I mean, that's a fine decision. And remember, drug plans, folks, no underwriting. If the drug plan is in your zip code and it's the best one for you, you can always enroll in it regardless of health conditions. Okay, currently I have Kaiser, Senior Advantage. Can I switch to something year in? And when is the best time to get it? Does it require underwriting? Thank you. Okay. Well, first off, if you stay wherever you live in your state, and you're on that Advantage plan, if you have been on that plan for more than a year, sometimes less, depending upon your A and B dates, to get a supplemental plan G or N, you are going to have to medically qualify to do that. Now, if you leave your Advantage plan and you actually move to another state, then you would have the opportunity to have a G plan. I don't think an N plan, some states, but primarily G, with no underwriting. But if you stay in the same area, then you're bound to the Advantage plan rules. And that's one of the issues I have with Advantage plans, regardless of where you live, unless you're in New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, or Massachusetts. To get off of your Advantage plan that you've been on for a year plus, now you have to medically qualify to do that. Okay. And yes, it will require underwriting, except in those 5 states that I mentioned. Okay. Now, the issue with timing is you can't do that right now. Unless you move from one state to another, you can only do that October 15th to December 7th or January 1 to March 31. Same rules still apply. Got to go through underwriting. All right. Would you recommend cancer insurance for Plan G? If so, why or why not? You know, I could go either way on that one. One of the reasons people get cancer plans when they already have great insurance, such as a G plan, they do it for expenses that would be beyond something medical, travel expenses. A variety of things can happen. You may decide that you want to try some natural therapy, not covered by G or the Medicare plan. So again, that diagnosis of cancer is going to give you that lump sum cash benefit, 10 grand or 20 grand, whatever your plan is. So would I recommend it? I think it's fine. You know, I don't think it's like a bad move. You have great insurance through Medicare and your G plan. So it would be really for those things outside, travel expenses, hotel, whatever. So again, I wouldn't feel, strongly one way or the other. If you don't have it, I think you're fine. If you want it, I'm not saying that's a big mistake either. Okay. Scott wanted to move to a new state with different company without underwriting. Could I change to Advantage plan in the fall, then move out of service area shortly thereafter? Oh boy. Okay. Okay. So you're going to move. Okay. So right now, Scott, what I hear you saying is you are going to move to a new state with a different company without underwriting. Okay. You cannot do that. Okay. If you're on it, let's say you're on a supplemental plan G and you move states, you can take your plan with you. And then you will fall underneath that state's guidelines. So your supplemental plan is totally portable. Can I change the Advantage plan in the fall? And the answer is yes, you can. You can change the Advantage plan in the fall. Your supplemental plan would be yours until 12/31. The new Advantage plan will start 1/1 and then move out of service area shortly thereafter and get a new supplement. Okay. Move out of service area. No. Moving out of the service area is not enough. Now, if when you change service areas and that Medicare Advantage plan is no longer available in that new service area, then yes, you probably do have a guaranteed issue right. But if that company offers a similar plan when you change service areas, then I don't think you're going to get that guaranteed issue right to move to a different supplemental plan. Okay. Now, if you move out of state, then that changes. But sometimes the service area can be within the state. My home state's Missouri. Our office is in Kansas, and there's a couple service areas here. So, no, you don't necessarily just because you move service area would have to be a different state to qualify for the guaranteed issue right. Okay, that was a loaded question, Scott. Thank you for it, though. Okay, Susan, if a healthy personal advantage plan in New York suddenly needs surgery, can they switch to some plan to cover the surgery? Okay, they could during the Medicare Advantage open enrollment season. Yeah, I don't think you can just drop your Advantage plan anytime. Now, if you're within the first year, that would be an exception. Yeah, that would be the trial right switch. But if you've been on that for more than a year, even in New York, you can move to a supplemental plan October 15th to December 7th. So you're bound to the switching rules under Medicare Advantage, meaning when you can get off of one, but you can go to a supplemental plan of your choice in the state of New York with no underwriting. But I still think you're bound to those timelines of October 15th to December 7th. SUP starts 1/1 or the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, and then your supplemental plan would start the next month. Okay, Tim, I'm 68, going back to work. Does it make sense to suspend Medicare and Social Security company has 10 employees? Okay, no, it does not. It does not make sense because you're considered to be a small group. So you got to keep the Medicare A and B. And so I would suspect a small employer like that is probably not going to have as good a plan as what your present Medicare coverage looks like. So I would not do that. I would just have your employer pay a little extra money. If they're covering the other people's insurance, have them pay an extra $300 or $400 a month, and they win and you win. You got better coverage and they're paying for it. And they can do that. No problem. Just increase your pay. All right, Tim, I'm 68, going back to work. Does it make sense to? Oh, okay. Same question there, Daniel. There we go. I have Medicare A and B. I'm on TRICARE for life. What plan can I get for supplements? And also I need dental and vision plan. Okay. Adriana, let me tell you what I would do. First off, thanks for, serving in the military. I have a daughter in the military, and thank you for serving. That's why you have TRICARE. You retired from the military. So it's very good insurance. A and B pays first, TRICARE pays second. So here's what, number one, I wouldn't get a supplemental, G plan or N plan. You don't really need that. You don't. That'd be overinsured. So what some people in your situation are doing is they're going on what is called an MA only plan. It's a Medicare Advantage only. No drug coverage is a part of that package. And so you continue to get your drugs through TRICARE, but you enroll into a Medicare Advantage only plan called MA, no drug coverage, because you don't need it. And then you can pick up your dental and vision benefits. Okay, you can do that because that Advantage plan is going to include that in that package. Now, again, you'd go with a PPO plan, so you have lots of options. You wouldn't be out of pocket any additional money because TRICARE has agreed to coordinate benefits either with A and B or with the Advantage company. Okay, and of course, you want to check your doctors and hospitals, make sure they're in the PPO network for sure. Now, if you decide you don't want to do that, then you can always buy a dental and vision plan on a standalone basis. I don't see a lot of veterans doing that, but it's a fine option. So the first thing I'd look at would be an MA only plan. And the second option, if you don't like it, then to get standalone dental vision plan. You can get those for about $45, $50 a month. You add a vision to it, it's going to be $10 or $15 a month. Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds good. Looks like that's all the questions. We've reached our time limit for the hour and a half. And hey, listen, I want to thank all of you for being a part. Thank you for letting us serve you. And if we can do anything, please reach out to us. Call our number, and we'd be delighted to serve as your Medicare broker. We'll see you here in a couple of weeks with another live event, and we'd be grateful for you to tell your friends about us as well. See you next time. Thanks.